Hi everybody, welcome back to Call of Duty's Warzone, and this video is going to be a solo victory walkthrough, hopefully sharing quite a few of my ideas about how you can win solo victories, because they can be quite challenging, and it's kind of a little bit of in response as well from an excellent question from a good friend Pet from the Gamers Confessional podcast. I put a link to their podcast in the description down below, where he says, "What am I doing wrong? I've got the best KD ratio of all my friends, and I often get high kill games, but struggle to get any solo wins. Any advice? Should I camp more?" Well, kind of the first thing I would say, Pet, is you're probably a lot better than you think you are. Most people are when it comes to solos. A 10% win rate in solos is really, really good. Really good, honestly. So that means you've got to lose 9 games to have a chance, of winning one, basically. And that's quite a grind. And when you're playing with your mates, when you're playing duos or quad squads, the rate that you're playing games tends to seem to go a lot faster. I've noticed this. But when you're grinding solos, often you can play 1 or 2 and you've had enough, where you could play several games with your friends. So it could be actually you've got a really good win rate, and it might just seem that it isn't. Because the thing is, with all battle royales, there's so much randomness that happens throughout the game. What's the flight path? Where does the circle go? Where do the enemies go? What weapons do you pick up? All these things. That there's going to be loads and loads of games where almost it's physically impossible for you to win because of something that happens with the circle or where somebody else goes. So that's the first thing I'd say. So if you still think actually I still think I could improve a bit, I think the next thing is it's all about, for me, having an overall strategy and specific tactics for specific situations, and then sticking to them. And that way, when you're grinding out the solo games, when I say grind, I mean I really enjoy playing Warzone, but I still call it a grind. When you're grinding them out, you're going to be doing the similar strategies, the same overall strategy, and sort of similar tactics. And you'll be able to fine-tune those tactics as you're going along. So, for example, my Warzone strategies have been developed from PUBG. Played, hundreds, if not thousands, of PUBG games, and at my best, I probably had a win rate of about 15% in PUBG, which was good enough in my glory days on Xbox to get me into the top 10 in third-person perspective games in the European servers. I think it was. Well, I definitely got into the 100. I might have got into the top 10. Might have just been the 100. Anyway, it was pretty good, and I really enjoyed doing that. And the tactic was called D23E, and in PUBG it was all about jumping far away from the plane, getting into a vehicle, driving as far away as you could get from the plane, so you could loot up in safety. And then using that vehicle, using that car to drive back through the circles. And when it came to the third circle, you would then get out of the car and you would make your way on foot, so you're a little bit more stealthy. Now, my Warzone variation on that is you don't need a vehicle. You very rarely need a vehicle because the Warzone map isn't actually that big. But I still try and jump far. So what I'll do is when the flight path is there, I'll look at the flight path and I'll look at the circle. And I'll think, right, what's the furthest place that I could jump to away from the flight path? Preferably inside the circle, but not necessarily. It doesn't really matter. And that doesn't have a name as well. And I kind of move my marker around. I zoom in a bit, and go right there, and and that's where I'll go to. And the idea then is to loot up in peace. So I don't get killed early on, because I've got this whole theory about the fact that I think early gunfights in any battle royale game are always a bit of a crapshoot, because the server is under so much load when there's 150 players on it that things like hit registration can be very random. So I'd always say avoid early gunfights if you can. And so the idea is, I would loot up in safety and then move in, normally on foot. I mean, if the circle's a long way away, you've got to remember in Warzone the circle is deadly, so I would then jump into a vehicle and then get to the edge of the first circle, just before the free supply drop arrives, get a free supply drop, and then look at the circle from them. And generally then I'm moving on foot and I'll be working near the edge, so getting into cover near the edge. Or I may well use a vehicle to do a hard shift over to the quiet side of the circle, say closer towards the edge of the map, or even just to the centre of the circle, which is what happens in this game. So you may well wonder here, what are you doing in this house, Rob? Why aren't you running around? Well, this is part of it as well. So when I parachuted in, somebody else parachuted in with me. So I've got my weapon, I've got my armour on, so now I'm just listening, I'm just waiting. There's loads of time, I don't need to rush. I'm just waiting around. Is someone else going to make a move? And when I'm sure the place is clear, I will then move. Now this could be, it is quite a passive way to play, and it's quite a boring way to play, but it's a safe way to play. And as I say, it's about this grind and the idea that if you play enough games, and if you get into the top 10 enough, you'll then get those wins. And I think really the core strategy for solos is think of yourself as a kind of a ninja assassin. And the only target that is important to you, in fact, the only target that you have, is the second to last person alive. All the other enemies on the map do not matter one bit, unless they become a direct threat to your being able to survive and take out that final person. So you'll be staying in the shadows. You'll be avoiding engagements. Imagine you're Martin Sheen from the end of Apocalypse Now. When he's emerging from the water with that camouflage on, and it's in the dark, and he's got his knife, and he's going to kill Marlon Brando. So, you don't give your position away by shooting at distant enemies, even if you have a silencer, because trust me, you can hear silencers, and if you're like me, you'll hear a silencer, you might not know exactly where the person is, but you know someone's close, so you immediately go on the defensive. You stop moving, you stop making sounds, and you start listening out. While we're on the subject of listening, make sure you're wearing your headphones, and make sure your headphones are turned up loud. Let the other players kill each other before you get involved if you have to. Be the third party if necessary. So if two players are taking each other out and they're close to you, let them shoot each other, let one kill the other. Generally, one one will be dead and the other one will have some armour missing. They normally wander over to where the loot is, and that's when you step in and you blat them. The perfect solo win, I think, is where you don't even fire your gun once for the entire match until the last second, when you shoot it into the back of that second to last player and you take the victory. Okay, so that's kind of the overall kind of strategy. So let's talk about some specifics that you can use, to maybe change your gameplay style and maybe get you those solo wins. So the first thing is, we've talked about it already. Always jump as far as you can, again, away from named places, because people are just attracted to named places. When you've got a bit of cash, always buy a gas mask first. Gas masks are the things that win you victories, because it enables you, especially at the end of the game now, where the final circle actually moves, it doesn't just shrink. It enables you to have a situation where you can go into the gas, come out of the gas, and shoot someone. Now, while this is on the screen, actually, you'll see the free supply drop has come down. So with 15 seconds to go to where the first circle closes, the free supply drops come in. And what you should always be looking at is, when the free supply drops come in, how many boxes there are. If there's more than one, it means that there's a supply drop for somebody else, and they may well be making their way towards that supply drop. So you have to be very careful. Now this one's by itself, so I'm pretty safe. So I can get that. I jump on the quad and I start moving, to a safer location on the map. But always be very, very aware of that. So if there's more than one box, wait. Have a look round. Now, if you're playing the edge of the map, a long way from other players, it's normally not that much of a problem. And that first supply drop is the one you go to get your loadout. Because in solos, getting $10,000 together to afford to buy a supply drop can be quite expensive. So again, so the first thing you should really buy is that gas mask, and if you can get a self revive as well, then that's very good as well. As I said, the first free supply drop drops at 15 seconds before the first circle finishes closing. So just be aware of that as you're moving around the map about what you're going to do. Never take a shot unless it's a direct threat and you can guarantee a kill. Because remember, every time you fire your gun, you're giving away your position. And not just to the person you're shooting at, to somebody who's just round the corner hiding in the bush who goes, ah, wait a minute, there's somebody over there. Always reposition and don't force a gunfight if you don't get that instant kill on your enemy. So if you see somebody and they're a direct threat and you think, right, I'm going to have a go at killing them, and you don't kill them, don't force the gunfight. So don't chase people into buildings. You know, so they'll be waiting for you, you know, at the top of the stairs, pre-aiming and waiting for you to run in. There's nothing wrong with moving away, moving position, waiting for them to move again, and then engaging them, or completely disengaging them. You know, Warzone victories are all about being the last person alive, not about how many people you can kill. Always play the edge, finding cover, but always be ready to play the centre or the far edge of the circle if there's a large area of open ground to cover, or if there's lots of enemies around, or to be honest, also if you're already looted up. One of the strategies I use a lot in Warzone is once I've got my loadout, my loadout includes the Growl, and I have Ghost on it, I have Cold-Blooded, and I have Amped, so I can swap to my rocket launcher really fast. And the perk I have, among the main perk, is I have Fully Loaded. So as soon as I got my supply drop, that's it, I've got a fully loaded Growl. So I don't need anything else. The only thing I really need is armour. And you know, you tend to pick that up on the way. So what I then do often is I'll then play the centre, and that's what happens in this video. I make the decision to play the centre, get into the centre, find a building, and just camp in that building for a good kind of 10 minutes, just waiting for the circle to do its thing. Let everybody else kill each other while I'm just, you know, carefully sitting there, keeping an eye on my heartbeat sensor, watching out for enemies, you know, waiting to make my move towards the final circles. Something that will often happen with the circle is that it will go towards the edge of the map, and it can be tempting to move along the edge of the map, along like the red boundary, you know, the out of bounds boundary, and make your way in there and kind of move your way around. The thing I would say about that is be very careful of that area, because often you think it's a quiet area, but actually what happens is where the circle intersects the edge of the map, it acts like a choke point for lots of players, and you end up with lots of players who will deliberately go to that side of the circle because it's known to be a quiet side of the circle, but it ends up not being a quiet side of the circle, because people know that and they make their way there. Often you're better off playing the centre and making your way in from there. As you're moving around as well, remember, avoid buy stations and other supply drops. You know, you'll just see boxes hanging around where they've come down from other places, because these, again, they attract other players, especially buy stations. They attract players who need to buy stuff, and they attract players who are just sitting there looking at the buy station, ready to shoot people who want to buy things. Another thing to look out for is vehicles as you're moving around. So when there's a vehicle, obviously if it's red there's someone in it, but if there isn't, have a look at it. You know, is it out of position? Is it like sitting next to the road where it should be if it was a spawn, or is it like next to a house or somewhere odd, or does it have a skin on it which you know that somebody's been in that vehicle? So have they just parked it next to that house, and then have they kind of run into the house, and are they hiding waiting to take you out? As far as your loadouts go, I would always say include Ghost. You know, Ghost is super important because Ghost keeps you off the heartbeat sensor, and as you're watching this gameplay here, 3/4 of my kills I get are because the heartbeat sensor showed me that there's a threat nearby, and then I've shot them. And without the heartbeat sensor, Would I have noticed some of those people who were up by the house previously? You know, maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't have done. It's a vital piece of equipment. And you'll find that in solos, sometimes, well, quite a lot of the time, people sacrifice Ghost in order to have overkill, because they want to be able to run an AR and an SMG and their favourite sniper rifle. But I don't think sniper rifles are that important in solos. That's why I run the Growl. So I run the Growl with the hybrid red dot 4 times. So I can use it at medium to long range, sort of, if you burst fire it, and it's really good at close range. And I use it with tactical suppressor, extended mag, commando foregrip, and as I say, I put the fully loaded perk on. Now the fully loaded perk is very useful, not only because, you know, in those that initial supply drop when you get the free one, or if you buy one in, you've got full ammo, but especially if you go to the gulag and obviously you've lost everything, and then you come back in, you parachute down, and you parachute down to a supply drop either at the beginning of the game or near the end. By having fully loaded, it means you just pick up your weapon and you've got 200 odd rounds ready to go. If you don't have a loadout with fully loaded on, you can end up picking up your custom loadout in the final circle with 10 people to go, and you've got like 60 bullets, which often isn't enough to see you through. My secondary is the rocket launcher, the RPG. That's really just mainly to take out people who've gone into cover. So if I'm having a fight with somebody, you know, and they go into cover, I can lob a grenade through fire an RPG through the window, take them out. Now, what's happening here in the game is you can see I'm being hunted, so I've tried to give myself a little bit of height. I've gone up to the top of this warehouse, and I'm keeping an eye on the threat indicator, and I think the person is coming from sort of my north-ish, so that's why I'm keeping an eye out of here. See, it's gone to 2 bars now, so I know it's got a little bit more dangerous, so I'm adding a little bit more height. I'm trying to get rid of the supply drop so I can actually hear what's going on, and then I'm going to make a move in a minute to grab a quad, and this is where I then make the decision to play the centre of the circle. But going back to my loadout, so my loadout is the Growl, tactical suppressor, so I stay off the mini map when I'm firing my gun, fully loaded, so it's got loads of bullets. I use the RPG as my secondary. My perks are then cold-blooded, so I stay off thermal sights, ghost, so I stay off the heartbeat sensor and the UAVs, and then I have amped so I can switch to my RPG really quickly. And then as my throwables, I use the Molotov, because I think often what will happen is you'll get into a gunfight in final circles where someone will go behind a rock, and it's very difficult to get a grenade onto them, or a frag or anything like that, or throw a C4 over the top. But with the Molotov, you throw it to one side, it hits the ground, it breaks, the fire then spreads, and it won't kill them, but it will damage them, and it will often force people out of cover, so they'll run out of cover, and you can then shoot them. And then obviously my non-lethal is the heartbeat sensor, which is absolutely critical to doing stuff. Okay, so we're into the last 10 minutes of the game now. So as you can see, I've made now I'm going for the centre. Now this is very risky, because there could be someone in this house. We do a quick dismount, and I run in. I kind of hide behind the door, and then I get my heartbeat sensor out, just see where I am. I'm not quite in the centre, and I'm just listening out. And you know, now literally I'm going to stay in this building until I'm forced to move. Heartbeat sensor shows me that there's someone underneath the bridge, so there's no point. I know they're there. Should I go and hunt them down? Absolutely not. Remember, I'm a ninja. My target is the final person. You know, somebody parachuting down there. None of these other people matter unless they're a direct threat to my mission. So are they going to kill me? Obviously I've got to take them out, or are they going to get in the way? So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fast forward the video a little bit until we get to the final circle, final circles, and you'll kind of get my thoughts on what I'm actually doing in the final circles. Okay, so if you look in the top left hand corner, you can see the next circle's popped. I'm not in it, so I do have to move, and the red is moving in, the gas is moving in. So I'm just looking around, trying to figure out where the other players are. I don't want anybody to come on me. Now that guy's too far away, so I don't attack him. And all I'm doing is I'm really surfing the gas. I'm coming in really late. Remember, I've got a gas mask, so it doesn't matter if I get caught in the gas a little bit. Somebody's calling in a cluster strike, so I know there's someone pretty close. I'm looking out for the guy who was in that house over there. Now, I'm very, very lucky at this point, because I'm very open. If someone over there was looking at me, they could have the cover of the trees, and I would be a bit crap. So in this, I try and get into this pipe to hide. You can't get into these pipes, so I'm just kind of crouching down, just kind of hoping they're all gonna get involved. I can hear suppressed gunfire off to my right. I know there's someone up there. I'm just checking. So at this point I think, right, I don't want to go through the open way, so I go up here, and now I realise I haven't really got much of a choice. I do have to go this way. So the circle's coming in again. Another cluster strike off to my right, so I know there's someone there. Again, I'm very, very lucky because I know there's someone to my left, but I don't want to be pushing in too fast. I'm waiting. I know there's a guy over there. I'm wondering, why isn't the guy to my left behind me? So he then starts shooting. The guy on my left starts shooting to the guy on my right. So I'm just waiting. I can hear the shooting behind me. I can hear him shooting again. So this guy comes out. We take him out. Now I know there's a guy on my left, so I want to engage him because he'll know where I am. So we get plenty of bullets into him, and we break his armour, but we don't kill him. So I want to hunt him down. And then there's more fire going on. Right. Gas comes in, and we're into the final circles. Now see how the circle's going to move behind me. So now I use my heartbeat sensor, and I know he's to my left. And then there's some gunfire. He then dies to my left. So I know there's one more guy. I think there's one more guy left, and he's in front of me. And the circle has to move towards me to end up sort of behind me. So now all I'm doing is I'm listening out. Where is this guy? I'm not exposing him. I'm waiting for him to come to me. Right. So he must have moved past me. He's quite sneaky to do that. So again, now I stop and we wait. So now the circle moves to behind me. So I know if I simply drop down those rocks behind me, the other guy has to come to me, and I'll be able to shoot him as he comes down. And in fact, that's what happens. There we go, and then we get the win. So there we go. Grind the game. You're probably better at Warzone than you think you are. A 1 in 10 win, a 10% winning hit rate is really good anyway. Play the edge, be a ninja. The only target that matters is the final target, that final person, and just have fun with the game. And if you end up enjoying quads or duos more than solos, then play them, because solos definitely is a different type of game completely, I think, to the team-based versions of Warzone in any battle royale. But there we go. Hopefully that's been useful. Thank you very much to Pet and the Gamer's Confessional for that question. Really gave me some good ideas that I want to share with everybody. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you want to see more of this, say subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.